What's up everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I used to be a simp, like a big one. I mean, at the time I didn't think I was. I thought I was doing everything right, but now that I've matured and when I look back at it now, I was definitely a simp and it led to heartbreak every single time. So for this video, I'm going to give you 5 lessons that I learned from being a simp, and hopefully these will help you avoid the mistakes that I made. And before we get started, I just want to say that this is my main channel. Here, as you know, I talk about male self-improvement and how to level up. But over on my second channel, Jeepers John Reacts, I react to the dating scene, modern society, and its absurdity. Hopefully hearing some of the outlandish takes will encourage you to level up and take control of your life so that you won't have to put up with any of the nonsense. Alright, so getting into the first lesson I learned from being a simp is don't pedestalize her. So I'm sure almost every guy can relate to this one because pretty much every guy who has fallen head over heels in love with a girl has fallen victim for this trap. It's almost impossible not to with all the media we've consumed that told us to do this. Also, it's just really hard not to glorify your girl when you're completely enamored over the one. I mean, speaking from my own personal experience, with all the girlfriends I've had in the past, I quite literally worshipped the ground they walked on, hoping to get my happy ending that Disney promised me. But every single one broke up with me. And back then, with my young little simpy mind, I couldn't possibly fathom why they would leave when I treated them like royalty, but that is exactly why they left. So when you pedestalize your girl like this, you are effectively placing her above you as your superior, and this goes against their divine feminine nature. Every girl desires a dominant, virtuous man to take charge of the relationship, but you can't be that leader she needs you to be if you're constantly praising her as this angel that can do no wrong. Alright, moving on to the second lesson I learned from being a simp is don't prioritize her. Yes, you heard me correctly. Don't prioritize her. Don't go out and see her every day. Don't call or FaceTime her every single night. And definitely stop instantly replying to all her texts. I understand you're probably thinking that this is bad advice and just toxic mind games, so let me explain. So every man has their specific life goals that they want to work towards, but if you prioritize your girl and leave your purpose on the back burner, you're going to get distracted with trivial matters such as daily late night phone calls, and that is going to tremendously slow you down. And don't misunderstand this, I'm not saying don't contact her or don't hang out with her at all. All I'm saying is you should allocate your time wisely and prioritize your needs. The point is not to deliberately wait 10 minutes after you see her text come in. The point is that by pursuing your goals, you're not going to have time to reply to her right away. However, if you don't listen and you still instantly reply to all her texts and late night phone calls and all that stuff, she's going to sense that you have nothing else going on for yourself outside of her, which by extension indicates that you will not be able to fulfill the provider role for her and possibly a future family. Women are biologically wired to be repelled by unambitious men, and that right there is what you must realize. I understand that prioritizing yourself over your girl may sound toxic and selfish at first, but it's actually the exact opposite. The sacrifice a man takes with sacrificing some leisure with his girl now to work and build a better life for the both of them in the future is not only a selfless act, but it's what we are all called as men to do. Of course, modern society and feminists will tell you something different, but I mean, look where listening to them brought us. These days, men are feminine, women are masculine, and now everyone just hates each other. So moving on to the third lesson I learned from being a simp is to have boundaries. So in today's society, of course, men have been demonized for having any boundary in a relationship whatsoever. I mean, I'll admit that there may be some guys out there with unreasonable boundaries, but when a man has healthy boundaries, it's actually for the betterment and protection of the relationship, not because he's insecure or controlling. If you don't have set boundaries in place, it's all just going to be unfulfilling, unhealthy, full of confusion, and doomed to fail. Alright, so moving on to the fourth lesson I learned from being a simp is tell her no. So now that you have boundaries in place, don't just abandon them, you have to enforce them. If you are stuck simping over a girl, your infatuation for her might cause you to be a little more lenient on your principles. Or in the worst case, just ditch them entirely because you don't want to risk upsetting her by telling her no. This is the absolute worst mindset to have towards a girl because you'll see all the red flags, but you'll make excuses for her to try and justify any bad behavior. And then before you know it, she'll be walking all over you. Or at the very least, she's going to lose attraction for you and leave you for someone who actually does have a backbone. Modern women on the internet can tell themselves all they want that they don't want a controlling man. And I use air quotes because, as I said earlier, any man with any boundary these days is going to be deemed an insecure misogynist. But in reality, deep down, they all desire a masculine man who has boundaries and sticks by them. Moving on to the last lesson I learned from being a simp, and that is just to let the girl go. So in every serious relationship that I've been in, and I'm sure a lot of guys will feel the same way. I was convinced they're the one, and so when each breakup happened, almost immediately I did everything within my power to try and win them back. And as I said back in lesson 2, when you prioritize your girl, she's going to lose attraction for you. And so compiling this with the fact that I was still prioritizing them even as my ex, that just put the nail in the coffin. And yeah, sure, this whole concept of trying to win the girl back works great in the movies, but in reality, you'll just be further proving to her that she made the right decision in leaving you. I know it's hard, but the best thing you can do for yourself at this point is to just forget about her and prioritize yourself for once. Trust me, the sooner you can find your purpose and focus on that, everything else will fall in place for you. Alright guys, so those were the 5 lessons I learned from being a simp. And just to go over the list one more time: don't pedestalize her, don't prioritize her, have boundaries, tell her no, and let her go. So that's going to be all I have for today, but before you go, I just want to remind you that this is my main channel. Here, as you know, I talk about male self-improvement and how to level up. But over on my second channel, Jeepers John Reacts, I react to the dating scene, modern society, and its absurdity. Hopefully, hearing some of the outlandish takes will encourage you to self-improve and take control of your life so that you won't have to put up with any of the nonsense. But alright guys, that was all I had for this video. I hope you learned something of value today. I hope you learned something from my mistakes to better yourself, and until then, I'll see you in the next one.